Welcome back to Switzer. Australia's current credit reporting setup is nearly 2 decades old. My next guest is trying to drag the system into the 21st century to bring it up to speed with other Western nations. Veda's led a determined campaign to modernise Australia's credit reporting laws and allow for comprehensive credit reports instead of negative reporting. Here to tell us what it is all about is Veda CEO Nerida. Nerida, thanks for joining us on the program.
Great to be here, Peter.
Now, Nerida, a lot of people probably don't understand what Veda is. So what is Veda?
Yeah, Veda is, we've actually been around for 45 years, but in different manifestations, and we hold all of the credit data for Australia and New Zealand. Okay. So simply, if you've got a credit card, personal loan mortgage, or a utility bill or a telecommunications service, you would have been credit assessed at that point.
So you looked me up before you came in. Hey, Switzer's in trouble.
The company providing a service to you will come to Veda where they get a holistic view of you and your credit position in the market. Okay,
so you help lenders assess whether they should lend to people.
Yeah, we're all about responsible lending, but we also focus on the consumer, so we try and educate the consumer about good credit and being responsible. So you can come and get your file at Veda. You just come into mycreditfile.com.au and you can have a look at your own file. You can see what the lender is actually looking at and make sure you manage your credit. mycreditfile.com.au, or you can come into the Veda homepage at veda.com.au. And we encourage people to come in and look and start to educate themselves about what is available.
Do people ring up and say, hey, there's something wrong here?
Absolutely. So we have a call
and is there sometimes something wrong? Or?
Of course, absolutely. And quite, sometimes people will have a default. They may not have made a payment. They may have been chased for payment. We encourage...
Well, they might be having a fight with the organisation, so they refused to pay. And that wouldn't be actually in the records, would it? Having a fight with us and therefore they didn't pay.
Well, it's recorded. It depends if the organisation defaults them. So if you have a bill that's greater than $100 and say 60 days overdue, and they've tried to collect and made a big effort to collect, and you've had notices of that, you'll have a default on the file. So we encourage consumers to really understand their credit and to manage their credit. The other part of our business is all about the business, so the commercial entity. So whilst we have some 19 million records on consumers in Australia and New Zealand, we have records on 4.5 million businesses. So we help companies assess the entity. Is it a good entity?
So when they're providing credit to customers via supply, they work out whether they can actually trust this business.
It might be trade credit, it could be a commercial loan, it could be asset finance. So we help that organisation understand, has the company had a good trading history? What's the probability of an adverse event?
Well, how's business been for you?
Terrific, actually.
So January's been a good start?
January's been a great month for us, and I think it's due to our diversification. So when I joined Veda a couple of years ago, we had a very heavy concentration in financial services. We've well diversified our portfolio.
But I was going to ask you, does that mean that home loans and credit card loans are on the rise?
The mortgage market, we just actually released our credit demand index yesterday, so that's all up on the internet. And the mortgages have been relatively flat. We did see a good boost in personal loans, and that's quarter to quarter, but also 7 consecutive months in a row we've seen that increase, indicating maybe there's a little bit of consumer confidence coming back. So our services centre around that, but we've also diversified in the last few years quite considerably. And if you think about companies today, a lot of them are focusing on how do I serve up a digital service to my customers. So Veda helps our customers to verify that person.
Has it ever been listed? And if so, will it ever list again?
It was listed and it was taken off the stock exchange back in 2007. We are owned by private equity. So at some point in the future, we will probably go through a change of shareholding.
Now tell us about, because one of the reasons why I wanted you on the program, old reporting, you describe as negative reporting, I guess other people do as well, and you've been fighting for comprehensive credit reporting.
We have.
Tell us, compare and contrast.
Clear it up. Okay. So Australia, along with France, we're the last 2 OECD nations to move to this, what they call...
We're the same as France, God.
Positive reporting. New Zealand actually went in April of last year, so they're well on the path, which is terrific.
So we're negative and so is France, but most countries are positive.
Are positive, that's right. So basically what it means is in today's world, when an organisation comes in to look at you and your credit file, they'll see negative data, a default. Multiple credit applications can also add into your score. So we have a Veda score, and that'll be enriched in the future.
All based on negative figures.
All based on negative data. So in the future, the changes that we've been really pushing with government, and this has been going on well before my time, by the way, for about 8 years, but quite intensely in the last 2 years, is to move to this comprehensive, meaning fully complete, getting the full picture of the individual. And there's 5 new data fields. The most interesting one is the 24 months repayment history.
Right.
So imagine you went to get a mortgage and the lender comes in to have a look. They'd have a look at your 24-month repayment history across all of the different credit that you have. So we all go on holidays and forget to make a repayment.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have, I certainly have. And you might have a little red spot in that 24 months or the 24-month period. But what it shows them is you've generally got good behaviour and you'll be rewarded for that in the future. So what's exciting about the change is we will create a Veda score for every credit active person in Australia and New Zealand. The scores will range from -200 to 1200. And if you're a good score, you'll be able to talk to your lender about potentially negotiating better rates because you've shown you've got good credit behaviour.
So the focus will be on how good you've been in paying off your debt,
Yes.
as opposed to the occasional mistake. What if you're young and stupid, age 21, but you're now 28, and you've had 5 years of fantastic debt repayments? Is the comprehensive reporting going to be better than the old one where,
Absolutely.
hey, this guy's been a dud?
Yeah, that's the point of it. So it shows that history and it shows that behaviour. And when we're going to be scoring individuals, all of that, along with the lenders, will be taken into consideration.
Why was government reluctant? If it's taken 8 years, has the current government said, yep, we're going to do it,
Yes.
or are they close to saying yes?
No, they said yes back in December,
Right.
so that's all good. It's gone on for some time, and I think it's just been change of government process, getting all of industry rallied around it as well. So they signed the bill back in December, and it's going to come into effect in March 2014.
Okay.
So there's a little bit.
Were there any groups that they said, oh no, we don't want this, there's something wrong with that? And if so, what were their criticisms?
Look, the consumer advocates are always there, which is great. It gives a balance of discussion to make sure that the consumer is protected and their privacy is protected. You know, we have immense laws around the privacy and the data we hold because obviously we're holding all of that information on people. The company data is more public data coming out of government sources. So the privacy around it was of utmost concern and we feel very comfortable that it's a balanced position. There's still a lot to be done though in the next 12 months, you know, getting the code written for how it's going to operate, getting all of industry into the same you know, the same objectives and understanding some of those decisions that have to be made.
What's the biggest payoff, do you think, from this change from negative to positive reporting?
There's a number of payoffs, but I think the biggest one is, we actually ran a pilot. So we had 10 of the major lenders and they contributed depersonalised records. So we don't have the names, but we have all of the critical data, and we did a lot of modelling on that to work out, well, what will it really mean when we're functioning in a positive or a comprehensive reporting world? And there's actually a 40% improvement in our ability to be able to predict, you know, around that individual, their credit worthiness. So that's a big uplift. So you would hope out of this, as has been seen in overseas nations, that it should stimulate, you know, economic growth. We have seen reports out of other economic locations that there's a 10% uplift in the total lending market. So if you think about today, there's probably a group of people out there who have trouble getting credit and trouble getting access to credit. So that complete data will hopefully start to free that up.
Nerida, interesting story. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Peter. Good to see you.
Okay, that was Nerida from Veda. If you want to read my thoughts each morning at the close of Wall Street, check out my website, switzer.com.au.